You are listening to I Survived the Wild Outdoors podcast, where real outdoors men and women share their heroic tales of survival. I'm your host, Brad Mathewson, and this is their story. Hello, everyone. Back in 1973, a man from Wisconsin named Bob Kampstra answered an elk hunting advertisement he had read in the back of an Outdoor Life magazine. And he made a decision that would send him deep into the Idaho Wilderness with high hopes and a hefty price tag. Over the next few weeks, Bob and the professional outfitter had several long conversations on the phone, and Bob asked every question he could think of. Later that summer, Bob and his wife traveled thousands of miles to Idaho to inspect the camp in person. Bob believed he was doing everything right before the season even began. But when fall arrived, what he encountered was far from the guided hunt he had expected. Over the next half an hour, we'll unpack how a well-planned adventure went wildly off course, what Bob and the other hunters faced, and why this story still resonates with hunters today. Hello, Bob. Can you tell us what happened on your guided elk hunting trip?
Okay, it's quite a long little story, so I'll tell you a little bit about it. In 1973, I was looking at Outdoor Life, and I noticed a guide from out in Idaho, and it had his telephone number and everything, and I wanted to go out hunting out for elk. I never have done it before. So I called him up, and we talked a little bit, and then I said to him, can my wife and I come out to see you, and we can you can show me the area or something? He says, well, fine, do that. And during the next couple months, I got a phone call from two guys in New Jersey, and they're going out there too to hunt the same week that I am, and they asked me if they could come to my house and pick me up, and we'll drive out together, and we'll pay gas together, you know what I mean, our share. And we got out there in 2 days, and we're supposed to meet this outfitter at the Lowell restaurant that's in Lowell, Idaho, and we got there, and he never showed up. And we ate a supper there, and we waited till the next day. He finally showed up the next day, and all he wanted to know is he wanted his money right away, and I had to pay $1,600 for a week hunt. And he said, here's a packer. You guys follow him, and he'll take you up to the spot camp up there. So we followed him down this dirt road to the east along the Selway Bitterroot area, a river. And when we got to the Selway Bitterroot Dam, just before it, we passed the ranger station. And when we stopped at the Selway Bitterroot Dam, there's a dirt road going up in the mountain. There was two toilets right there. And it's 12 miles into the mountains there now. And it's winding in and out of there. We got to his base camp. He had a big tent there with horses and got some food there for the horses. There was a trailer camp with a guy and a gal. And that packer said to us right away, well, we're ready to go out there. Grab a horse. Well, I was the last one to get a horse, and it was malnutrition. And I got on it, and the horse wouldn't go. And the packer came up there, and he was going to whip it. And I said, don't you touch that horse. That's where my story I had all this bad luck come on. That's the start of it, right then and there. So we started walking back in almost 20 miles, and I was trailing them in the dirt. It was all over me, from the dust. And we walked in there a long ways, and maybe 10, 15 miles. We came to this other camp, and we stopped to talk to the guys, and they says, "Hey, are you guys with the same outfitter?" And I says, "Yes." He says, I advise you not to go up there anymore. Why? Well, he says, we don't have food. We don't have guides. He says, I advise you not to go. But we still did. And now I got onto the horse and tried to ride with him. And we're going uphill. All of a sudden, the horse stumbled and rolled down the mountain about 100 yards. I dove off the other side. I walked down there and I got my rifle out of there. Here's this packer came. He took the saddle off. He took the bridle off of the horse and that blanket, carried it up to the top of the road and left the horse laying right there. And then I started walking by myself again, following them other people. We finally got to camp. It was almost dusk time, and we got to meet another guide up there and two hunters from they were ranchers from South Dakota, and we met the cook. And we found out no guides, no food, no nothing. Well, we went to bed. The next day I got up. The cook said to me, well, I'll take you out for about an hour. So we left and we walked to the west side of the mountain there. And we got in maybe a mile, and he blew his bugle. And there's an elk answered down below me, and it answered a couple times, and then it wouldn't answer anymore. And then the cook said, I'm going to go down the mountain, and I'm going to try to get some fool's hens and some mushrooms for supper for you guys, and I'll see you later. So I left him, and I started walking to the east yet. And I come to this little tributary that comes down the mountain. And there's a big pool right there. And God, I see this shiny stuff in the water. And I scoped it out. I was thinking it was gold, you know what I mean? And I put it in my pocket and all that. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to go straight down the mountain now. And I got into the timber. Oh, there were trees that were 6 feet in diameter, all smashed, all the heck. And I was walking on all these trees and that down the hill. And all of a sudden I look up, there's a bull moose, a cow, and a calf. And I never seen a calf moose before. It was like straight horns up. And I got the camera in my pocket, and I didn't take the picture. I brought up the gun, and I put it on that big bull moose, and I said, bang, you're dead. I just figuring it, you know what I mean? And they saw me, and they ran back down the mountain all the way. And then I walked that way, and I'm going down farther and down farther. And I must have walked another half a mile down. And I come to a clearing. It was small evergreen trees and then real thicket, all in a line going up and down the mountain. And I just happened to cut a stick off, and I smashed it against the trees 2-3 times. And all of a sudden an elk answered, and he bugled, and I hit that brush again, and he bugled again, and he bugled again. He's coming closer and closer and closer, and boy, my my adrenaline was in my body. Oh, boy, he's coming for me, and I might get myself a shot. And you wouldn't believe it. A jet plane come over, and it broke the sound barrier, and that was the end of that elk. He went running down the mountain. He probably was running for a mile or two. That was the end of that one. So I started down the mountain. I got to the creek, and off to the right is I could see a clearing mountainside and all that. I should have went that way, because boy, that really looked good to hunt. But I went back toward the west so I could meet another trail back in there. And there's all elk tracks all over the place. And I went by the trail that goes back to my camp, and I just kept going to the west. And finally, I went and sat up on top of the mountain and watched the creek for about 2, 3, 4 hours. And all of a sudden, I saw this big creature down there. I thought it was a bull elk. And I went down there and snuck down there, and I hid behind a tree, and I got 40 yards from it, and it wasn't an elk. It was a moose with a cow. And boy, she was mad at me that I even took a picture of it, and his ears were just spun real backwards like it was going to charge, that I stayed behind that tree then. Finally, I got out of there, and I circled back around the creek, and I went another mile about, and I come to another clearing like, and there was a wall of granite on my front of me with a thicket to the right, elk tracks all over in there. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go sit up in one of them trees. So I had a rope along. I tied my rifle to it, and I had the backpack on my shoulders, and I climbed up there, pulled the rifle up there. It was real comfortable. I tied a rope around me, so in case I fell asleep, I wouldn't fall out of the tree. And I sat there about 4 hours and nothing. So that was my first day of hunt. And I walked back along the creek until I hit that trail that went all the way up to the tent. I got up there, and well, of course, my 2 hunters were back already. They were no hunters at all. And the 2 ranchers were back with their guide. And the guys from New Jersey had some powder for soup. That was my supper that night, and I had some water. And we're sitting around the fire. Excuse me. Well, anyway, it's real quiet in the mountain that night, and all of a sudden I heard something, and I said, "Hey, stop talking!" And it sounded like, and we heard it again and again and again and again. I said, "Hey, that's the cook down there." So that one guide and I, we took a horse, we walked it down, and the guy kept howling and screaming, and we finally found him. He was crawling on his hands and knees. His pants were all ripped to heck. He had a fool's hen tied to his belt. He still had his pistol on there. And he was puking green. And he was delirious. And we tied him, we put him on the saddle, head down and hands one side and the feet on the other side. We tied them on. We took the horse all the way up the mountainside. We must have been down a mile. Anyway, when we got to the tent, we put him in his bedroll, and the guys from New Jersey gave him some soup, down into his system a little bit, and the guy kind of passed out, went to sleep, and thanked us the next morning. We saved his life. He said, I ate poison mushrooms. That was supposed to be for our supper. And I went to bed, and the next day I got up. I went down that trail going down the mountain again to the north, and I got halfway down. I see this elk trail going across the path, and I thought, well, I'm going to walk on it to the west, and it was real nice elk trail, and I'm walking real quiet. I must have walked in a mile and a half on it. All of a sudden, I came upon that smelly scent. I didn't know what it was. It really stunk, and I couldn't figure out what the heck that was. And later on, I found out that was elk down below there, and I didn't know what an elk smelled like, but that's what I found out later on. Well, I kept walking. I came out to a clearing, and there was a feeder stream, and I walked over by the feeder stream, and there's mud all churned up in it. There had been a bull elk there not too long before that. And I thought, wow, I'm going to go sit up on the mountainside here and be about 100 yards from that where he was waddling. That's what they call waddling in the water. And nothing showed up. So now it's almost 4:30. Boy, what am I going to do? Am I going to walk down the mountain and hit that stream and then walk all the way to the east and then come all the way up to the tent? I said to myself, I'm going to try going over this mountain and see if I can hit that road. And sure as heck, I hit that road, and I got back to the tent, and we got to talking, and we decided that tomorrow we will get the heck out of there. And this one guide and I, the next day, we started walking out. The rest of the people, they weren't ready to go yet, but him and I did. And I drank some water. Little tributaries come across these trails. And about a mile down the road toward where we're going back to the tent back there, boy, a big white-tailed deer I saw. And we were allowed to shoot a deer, too. Boy, he was a big white-tailed deer, but I only saw it for 5 seconds. I couldn't get the gun on it. And then we continue on. We finally, in late afternoon, we got to the tent, and we were sitting there, and this young couple came out of their trailer camp and said that they're going to go. Oh, I asked them, hey, do you have any food in there? Excuse me. Anyway, I said, well, we're hungry. Well, they said, we don't have any food in there. They said they gotta go down the mountain and they gotta get something. When they left, I went into into that trailer. I found 2 steaks. I found food in there that was all, how do I say it, spoiled and all that. But the 2 steaks were all right, and I fried up 2 steaks for him and I, and then we sat down in the tent on some bales of hay, and finally the rest of the guys finally came out from the mountain, and all of a sudden, up the darn hill, here comes that truck. Oh, wait a minute. The truck, the guys that I was with, we thought, okay, we're going to go down the mountain to that ranger station and turn this guy in. And then we came back up. Anyway, the sheriff came up and his deputy and said to all of us, check all your stuff and make sure that you got everything. And while we were there, this young couple came storming up that hill so fast. And they told the sheriff that they found the outfitter with his head bashed in down at one of the toilets down by the Sellaway Dam. And then the two guys and I, we left. And as we're starting down the mountain, cripe, there was a saddle laying on the ground. The bridle was on the ground. The rug or whatever you put it on on the saddle, it was all laying on the ground. We picked this up and we started down the mountain. And we were going real slow. We were in no hurry now. All of a sudden, here comes the sheriff with his blue light on and stopped by us, and we gave him that saddle and all that stuff. Well, he told me they found this outfitter with his head bashed in at this toilet. That's when we found out about it. And when we got down, we followed the sheriff all the way down there. Meantime, he called the ambulance from Lowell, Idaho, and they came out there. And I helped them put them into the ambulance. And I found out later on there was that group of guys that we met up there. They're the ones that bashed his head in. Well, anyway, everything got clear, so we started home. And about 3 or 4 months later, we found out that he came out of that coma, bashed his head in. And he was supposed to, when they start a hunt, they got to pay $10,000 ahead of time. Well, anyway, he went to court, and they took his license away and his area away, and out of that $10,000, and how many hunters there was, I don't know. I got $265 back out of $1,600. And then that's about my end of my story.
Okay.
It was a bad, bad time.
Do you know, did he serve any jail time, did you know?
No.
No.
Not that I know of. No.
Okay.
No, he did not. So that's my hunt, hey. That's just one of my hunts that I had, a bad hunt.
Well, thank you, Bob.
I hope you'll appreciate what I said.
What Bob's story makes painfully clear, not all hunting outfits operate with integrity. And when you're trusting someone with your hard-earned money and your outdoor dreams, the consequences can be more than disappointing. Some outfitters will make promises they can't keep, and without proper oversight, hunters can be left stranded or worse. Today, you don't have to leave it to chance. One of the first steps in planning a hunt out of state is to confirm that the outfitter you're considering is licensed and registered with the wildlife agency in the state you intend to hunt. Many states list registered outfitters and guides through their Department of Wildlife or Natural Resources. and you can verify credentials directly with the agency before you book. Don't just rely on well-designed websites or flashy photos. Ask to see proof of licensing, permits, and insurance, and contact those agencies if you have any doubts. Just as important, do your homework on the outfitter's reputation. Research online reviews, look for hunting forums and discussions, and ask for references from past clients. But don't only talk to the people who had trophy success. Seek out those who didn't fill their tags or had less than ideal experiences. Their perspectives can be just as telling as any harvest photo. And when possible, take the extra step to contact a local game warden or wildlife officer in the area you plan to hunt. They deal with outfitters and guides regularly, and they can let you know whether there's a reputation for rule breaking or complaints in their jurisdiction. Bob didn't have the benefit of online reviews, licensing databases, or quick access to past clients back in 1973. We do. Use those tools. Ask the tough questions. Protect your investment and your safety. Because an adventure, like a guided elk hunt, should be something you remember for all the right reasons, not a cautionary tale. And as always, stay safe out there and enjoy all that Mother Nature has to offer. If you like what you heard today, click the subscribe button to hear more upcoming stories. If you or someone you know have a survival story you'd like to share, contact me at isurvivethewildoutdoors@gmail.com.